Good, e Good evening and welcome to the debut performance of Haitian Requiem in memory of the victims of the 2010 earthquake in Haiti. First, I want to thank all of you guys for coming. It really means a lot to me. But first, I'd like to give a little bit of a talk about how, just to explain some of what went into the compositional and musical decisions that informed how I composed this Requiem that you'll be hearing tonight. So in the Requiem, there are two different texts. There's a Latin text and there's a Haitian Creole text. The Latin text is Christian. I did not write it. It comes directly from the funeral mass. You know, they don't do masses in Latin anymore. Now it's in the vernacular. But so this is an old Latin text, but it's Christian. And the Haitian Creole, which is a language that's influenced a lot by French as well as the indigenous language of Haiti, is connected to the Vodun religion, which is popularly misconstrued with a negative connotation under the term voodoo. So really with this work, I hope to dispel some of those negative stereotypes. So I set these two texts. So there are two texts in the work, and I really envision them working in a dialogue together, speaking to each other and talking back and forth, while at the same time sending a single unified message. Because in my mind, there are two groups of victims of the earthquake in Haiti that happened in 2010, which was on January 6th or 7th, I want to say. Okay, so there are two groups of victims. There's the group that passed away in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, and then there's the group of victims who were left behind to rebuild what was left of their lives. And I envision each of the languages speaking to address the concerns of one of these groups of victims. So I intend the ethereal, transcendent Latin to address the concerns of the dead, those who were not lucky enough to survive the earthquake, while the pragmatic, mundane Haitian Creole would address the concerns of those still living. And mundane here is to be taken in its original etymological sense, meaning world from the Latin. Some of my text setting and text ordering have been informed by my research into the Haitian indigenous religion. Thus, some of my reasons for text setting may be a little subtle. For instance, the Haitian saint who is first addressed in the first song that occurs in the piece, you'll hear it very early on. His name is Legba, and it's the spiritual entity who is invoked at the start of every Vodunist Rada rite without fail. So in here, in a direct parallel, I also invoke him first in this ritual. In other instances like it, I try to stay true to how the religion is actually practiced. In other instances, for example, Movement 6 and the second half of Movement 9, I engage directly with Vodunist musical practices. In this arena, though, I try to stay true to the idea and spirit behind their musical conventions rather than trying to write completely authentic Haitian music, something which I thought would have been impossible because I'm not Haitian. For instance, the Haitian rhythms of Movement 6 and 9 that you'll hear in the drums have been adapted from the forms in which they are usually found. However, the Haitian drums that you'll hear, they'll be on the left, all retain their respective functions. The names of these drums are the maman, which is the lowest drum, it's like the bass, it's the leader of the ensemble. The boula, which is the highest drum, it's played with two sticks. It's intended to heat up the music, while the segon initiates dialogue between the two other drums. So they all retain their same functions, even though I use them in slightly different ways. As I said before, I try to set up a dialogue between the two texts. Sometimes this dialogue is rather easy to see. For instance, in Movement 8, which unfortunately won't be performed tonight, Movements 1, 2, 5, 6, and 9, as you can see, are programs, are the ones that will be performed. But in the 8th movement, the Haitian people, here represented by the choir, lament that they are ridiculed because they are poor. They sing, and I quote, "Because we are poor, they are bad-mouthing us." In the Latin sung immediately after that, I envision the choir here as representing something like the community of saints and souls in heaven, reassuring the Haitian people. So here, the Latin recalls the tale of Lazarus, a poor beggar who entered into heaven. And I quote the Latin now, "May a choir of angels receive you, and with Lazarus, who once was poor, may you have eternal rest." Thus, a direct parallel is drawn between a Christian story and the Vodunists themselves. This is probably the most explicit instance of all of these dialogues. In other places, it is a little subtler. For instance, in the second half of Movement 1, there are 3 Haitian songs lamenting various misfortunes, such as a missing child or a dead parent. All of these songs are interceded in between by the Latin refrain of Lord or Christ have mercy, Kyrie or Christi eleison. So here the Latin asks for mercy on the souls of the dead of the people mentioned in the Haitian Creole songs that are interspersed among them. This is another good example of the dialogue that I was talking about. There are other examples of this dialogue throughout the score, but hopefully you can identify them on your own. The phrase requiem aeternum, meaning in Latin, meaning eternal rest in English, is a major theme of the requiem text. It appears in the introit, the gradual, the Agnus Dei, the communion, the imperatism, and the Pie Jesu. I have thus made it a major theme of my text. Whenever the choir asks for eternal rest for the dead, it is a thematically important point. This whole work altogether is meant to be a narrative, kind of a description of the roller coaster of emotions one might feel in the aftermath of any disaster, not just the 2010 earthquake. The emotional tone is meant to inform the dramatic arc of the whole piece. The Sanctus, Movement 5, which will be performed tonight, forms the linchpin around which the rest of the work turns. The most emotionally discordant section is the very aggravating Movement 6, which will be performed, the Agnus Dei. The last 3 movements then form an arc that reaches its zenith in the glory of the 9th movement, the Pie Jesu. The Pie Jesu is the final, ultimate, and basic message of the whole work. It asks for eternal rest for the dead, but for the other group, those still living in Haiti today, the Haitian Creole text encourages them to, I quote, mosh, literally an imperative commanding them walk. But metaphorically, it is telling them move on, to keep going, to keep trying, no matter what. Such simple language is the nature of the Haitian text included in my work. I suggest you look at the Haitian text differently from the Latin text. The Haitian texts are given to understatement, which in its own way will emphasize its message even more. It will speak in simple terms and use practical everyday symbols to refer to more complex underlying concepts. You can see this in the second half of Movement 1 when the Haitian people, again represented by the choir, sing the following. They sing, "We're getting out of the sun," which metaphorically means we're getting out of the hard times we're in. And yet, after that, they sing "The country is far," which really means, but sometimes it's just so hard to carry on. You can also see this at the end of Movement 1 with the text in English that starts, "Oguno, I don't see my blood." That figuratively means that the singer has been bled dry by any number of predatory forces, a corrupt government, a powerless court system, or a natural disaster like the earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010. I encourage you to read over the text before the performance and maybe glance at it for reference during the concert, but overall continue to pay attention because ultimately the real message is to be found in the music. One more word. In my mind, when the choirs or singers sing, they are to actually assume and become the people whose stories they are describing and telling. For instance, in Movement 6, the singers are sometimes informed to sing angrily and accusingly in the score, as if they are acting out a play with actors, which in my mind they are. Again, in Movement 6, it is a choir child who sings the story of losing a parent. It is a grown choir woman who describes the story of losing a child. Then, in Movement 2, when 2 Haitian saints, respectively, a man and a woman, sing a song, it is actually a male woman and a female singer who sing this song. I wish to emphasize the oratorio-like nature of this work in that it is a sacred drama that is performed without staging apparatuses such as costumes or scenes. Hopefully this gives you some context for how to interpret the work. In sum, I tried to emphasize the similarities between the 2 religions while still respecting their differences. Now for the premiere performance of the Haitian Requiem. One final note, please hold your applause until the end after all the movements have been performed. Vincent will indicate it, the conductor. Thank you. And now we're going to have Christopher Jones from the Duke Law School for the Haiti Legal Advocacy Group say a little something.
Well, thanks to Martin, this was a really nice treat on a weeknight to have a break from studying for law school finals. One thing interesting, too, is that he's, I think, really reflected Haitian culture well. It's a country that has fused Christianity and voodoo in ways that may seem kind of contradictory, but I think that kind of fusion and creativity in their religious tradition was reflected well. To say a little about Haiti, particularly after the earthquake, is hard without understanding the broader context of Haitian history, which is something that I'm certainly not qualified to do. Needless to say, though, the modern Haitian history has been plagued with corruption, violence, dictatorships, instability, and natural disasters and poverty. Many know that it is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, one of the most poor in the world. And so when the earthquake hit, it was really within this context that magnified the destruction that nature thrust upon this small island nation. And going forward, that history will continue to be reflected, I think, in the ways that Haiti and the international community try to combat and recover from what has happened. Some of the major obstacles that Haiti faces right now are, of course, rebuilding infrastructure and replacing so many of the homes that were damaged and destroyed in the quake. Anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million people are still without homes, living in temporary camps. Those camps often don't have access to some of the basic human rights that we all take for granted here: water, sanitation, security. Gender violence is something that is an epidemic in these camps, and it's a real struggle going forward for Haitians to have that security in their lives. In addition, what has most likely happened is that UN peacekeeping forces have brought a strain of cholera from Nepal that has devastated much of rural Haiti as well as some of the larger cities because of the lack of access to clean water. So far, hundreds of thousands have been ill from cholera and 7,000 have died. So the response happening right now is critical to Haiti getting back in a position of stability. A couple of things that are positive going forward is that Haiti is making a strong push to get investment in ways that it hasn't perhaps in decades previous. There was recently a large conference brought in a lot of capital donors and government agencies from across the globe looking at Haiti as a place to invest. Historically, Haiti was the jewel of the French crown. It was its largest source of economic production as a slave colony, primarily through sugar. And some of those foundational strengths of Haiti still exist. And over the next 5 to 10 years, hundreds of millions of dollars will be reinvested in Haiti, in agricultural, in garment manufacturing, and other industries that are important for Haiti's future. In addition, something that has gone unnoticed perhaps in many U.S. circles is that for the first time really in Haiti's history, they have an independent judiciary, something that is absolutely central to it having a functioning government that can stem the tide of corruption that has been such an integral part of the mismanagement of the Haitian state. For the first time in 7 years, there's a Chief Justice. That Chief Justice has been able to comprise a judicial council that oversees the functioning of the judiciary, taking away that oversight from the executive branch, which has traditionally played too strong a role in the judiciary. There are lots of other areas going forward where Haiti is making progress in strengthening its government institutions. Time will tell what these results will yield. There has been cycles of hope and despair regarding Haiti for decades. I am personally optimistic that Haiti can succeed in the coming years, coming decades. There is a long road ahead. These kinds of structural changes obviously take a long, long time. But if there is one thing that Haitian history shows is that their people are courageous and resilient. This is the first country to overthrow its colonial masters in 1804. And throughout its history has shown that bravery that its founders showed in overthrowing the French, and I believe that still exists today. So hopefully that gives you a little sense of where Haiti's at, and hopefully you have a greater appreciation of the work that Martin has done, bringing light to the situation, both for those that have perished, those that have lost loved ones, and those that are still in Haiti trying to overcome these tremendous obstacles. Thank you.
Hello? 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 Okay, good. Okay. Well, now we have, hello? Is this one working? Yeah. We have a little time for a short, well, however long it is, a Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions for me, I don't know, inspiration, stuff like that, anyone, question, just anything. Yeah. Oh. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Oh, yeah, no, thank you for coming. All right, yeah. All right, cool. Thanks a lot, Dr. Kelly. I'll see you around. I'll talk to you, yeah. All right.
Martin, what was the source of your information with regard to the Haitian portion of your
Oh,
requiem?
right. Good question. Good question. Okay, so yeah, so I like to just dig through the Duke Library from time to time, and there are just books upon books in there, as you might imagine, which libraries have in them. But no, but like I was at the so when this idea for Haitian Requiem was coming together, I guess in January 2010, I was a sophomore in my second semester, starting my second composition class with Dr. Kelly. And he requested that I write a longer work. And so I had been into requiems morbidly, I guess. But so I looked at a lot of requiems, some of them that informed the creation of this one was Mozart's Requiem, Gabriel Fauré's, Maurice Duruflé's, and especially Benjamin Britten's 1972 War Requiem. But so I was thinking on the Requiem, and then I thought to incorporate some real Haitian text. And so I just like to search the Duke Library and see what I could come up with if you just throw random keywords in the search bar. So, funny enough, I came up with 2 books, actually, that really fit my purpose freakily well. They were Dancing Spirits by Gerdez Florent, I think is how you pronounce it. So that was, and that's where the text for the text that you heard tonight came from, the 15 authentic Vodunist songs that were transcribed. So these texts were transcribed from actual rituals that happened in Haiti. I changed the melodies, but not the words to them, so that's where I got that. And then a lot of the information, the Haitian rhythms, for instance, that you heard, came from another book by Lois Wilkin, who I invited tonight. She could not be here because she had a personal loss. But the name of that book was The Drums of Vodou. And so, yeah, those were my 2 main sources for the Haitian side of things. Yes, question. Okay, well that's fine. I have just some closing remarks to get for you guys, and then. Oh yes. Yes, my greatest musical influences. That's a good question. I listen to a lot of. Let's see. My favorite composers, they kind of come from the 20th century. So that includes Samuel Barber. Yeah, he's like a late romantic composer. Aaron Copland, who I think you can definitely hear a lot of in this work, especially with the opening brass for the 5th movement, the open 4th and 5th. Yeah, there we go. Well, moving up and down. But I'm a really big Claude Debussy fan. This music, yeah. This music doesn't sound too much like Debussy, but I think maybe the emphasis on melody and were the most important. Who else? Maurice Ravel is a big influence on me. And, actually, this is a big one. Arvo Pärt, He's a Neo-Gregorian composer who actually, he writes kind of like modern-day Gregorian chant. So he studied composers from the 1400s and 1500s. And that definitely influenced a lot of the way I wrote my melodies, and especially some of the harmonies that you heard. They were open fourths and open fifths, which even if you don't know music, you would really recognize as sounding different from the other ones. They very open feel. So for instance, all those last chords you heard were open fourths and open fifths, and that kind of gives it a bright, pure sound. So Arvo Pärt definitely writes Gregorian chant, and I think my melodies resemble that to a large extent. So some questions, another question, one more. Actually, he had his hand up first. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, sorry. We'll come back to you.
Hey, Marty.
Hey.
How long did this take you, and are there plans for a sequel?
Yes, yeah. So this took me, all in all, it took me, from start to finish, it took me 2 years and 3 months. I actually started it, worked on it for 6 months, decided, got about halfway done, decided I didn't like what I have, and then I started over. So that is what you have here. Plans for a sequel. Weirdly enough, people have been coming at me for all angles, asking me to write another Requiem. My friend just tonight asked me if he died tragically, would I write a Requiem for him? I said yes. There have been offers for a Connor family Requiem, to write a Requiem for our family that will be played at all of our funerals. But that's focusing a little too much on the death side of it. So really, I don't want to pigeonhole myself as a Requiem composer, so I'd like to move on to other things. Shorter, I definitely think shorter works at this point. Maybe more in the 5-7 minute range. Yeah, so Mike, you got a question? Right, that's a good question. Okay, so I did more studying into Haiti's indigenous religion, Vodun, and actually drums play a really big part in their rituals. You might think of their rituals as like equivalents to like the Christian Mass, their liturgies, and I'll actually talk about this in a little, but the drums play a really big part in inducing the Vodunist worshipers to be able to communicate with their spiritual entities. They're called Loi, and they're most equivalent to our idea of saints, and actually many of them have been equated with some of the Christian saints. So anyway, the drums play a really big part. There are the 3 drums, the maman, the bula, and the segon, and they're supposed to heat up the music, give it really the ritual almost a frenzied atmosphere, and that will induce being able to it's not the most correct word, but to communicate with their saints. So yes, next question. Oh, good. Yes, Norman. Yes, the carillon. Okay. Yeah. So this whole thing kind of came. Right. Let me repeat it. When did the carillon enter into this whole equation? Right. So I was there, and Dr. Kelly, who just left, he was like, okay, well, you need to write a longer piece. And I was like, okay, sure, I want to write a Requiem. And he was like, okay, how about you write for a brass quintet? And I was like, okay. And then he was like, wouldn't it be cool if you threw the carillon in there? And I was like, yeah. And so then that's really, so Dr. Kelly kind of threw that out there. I'm not sure if either of us really thought about whether it could happen or not. We thought about having it outside for a while, because I mean that's where you normally hear carillons. But yeah, as you could see tonight, there was a video camera. So Samuel Hammond, is he still up there? Is he around? Maybe he's still coming down. The carillonneur, he plays every day at 5 o'clock here. Up there he is in the back. Yeah, nice. Yes, sir. Yeah, so he was able to see Vincent up here on a camera, and you might have seen him over there on that video. But yeah, he was playing. He was all about this thing. He was just so excited that someone was writing for his instrument. But anyway, he plays every day at 5. He was instrumental in helping me make edits to the carillon part, because I've never written for carillon before. kind of just making it up as I go along. Yeah, so it was there from pretty early on, but then we had to figure out a system of how to get it in here, so that's what all this technical wizardry is that you see over there. Yes, next question. Yeah, yes. Yes. There are actually only 9 movements. You did not hear the 3rd, 4th, 7th, and 8th. So, yes, the 9th was the closing one. Yes, yes. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Well, that is up to the powers that be. No, I don't know. Like, I mean, right now, you know, I'll have the Requiem hanging out at my house, and hopefully someone comes along and they're like, I heard you got Requiem, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, we want to perform it, and then I'll be like, okay. So really, right now, though, there's no plans. Why? You know someone who knows someone? You want to? Okay. Yeah, so would I. But yeah, I think Vincent made the right call. Vincent, the conductor, he's a sophomore from UNC. His professionalism throughout this whole thing was amazing. I would have sworn that he had conducted a concert before with carillon, percussion, brass, and choir. Nothing fazed him, and he was always, yes. But yeah, he was in the position of having to make a lot of tough calls, because I came to him, and this was like less than 2 months ago, and I was like, I want to perform the whole thing, and he was in the position of having to keep me from myself, kind of. He was like, you know what, if we did 5 movements, that'll be more than half. We'll be able to tell the whole story. So even though we didn't do all the movements, I feel like you got the basic whole story of it. Like the 6th movement is the most discordant, the 5th was the Sanctus, really glory, and the 9th was the closing, culminating one. But yeah, he was, so he said, he was like, let's do 5, that'll be more than half, and we'll be able to get those 5 done really well. And I think you saw that tonight, so. All right, then I'd just like to give some closing remarks, and then you can all oh yeah, there's a reception. There's a reception over at the Divinity School afterwards. You are all invited. There will be food, so it'll be fun. Yeah, I just got some closing remarks to do though, and then get out of here. I've been speaking to you people in my mind for months. In my imagination, I would always say something deep and profound that would move you, not me, the audience, to tears. But I think it would be a mistake to try to come up with the words that could possibly match this occasion, because I don't think they exist. In fact, the failure of words to really accurately depict what we really feel deep down was one of the main reasons why I wrote this Requiem in the first place, which is something I'll expand on in a minute. One thing I can do fairly well, however, is offer my thanks to everyone who helped us get to tonight. I say us because I by no means was the only one to have a hand in the creation of this project. I owe so much to so many. Dr. Kelly, my faculty mentor, under whose direction I started this project. Quite simply, he saw something in me 2 years ago that I did not see in myself, and he really thought, he made me believe that I could do this. I'd like to thank Dr. Lawson, the physics professor. He was very supportive along the way and helped me figure out a lot of the physics and acoustics side of that, so I really appreciate that. I'd like to thank Mr. Samuel Hammond, the Duke Caroliner. He helped me not only in writing in helping write the Carillon part, but also his deep attention to detail, and he was just so excited throughout this whole thing. It was almost tangible how excited he was. There's Dr. Benjamin Boyle, who was very helpful in helping me make edits. to the piece in full. I'd like to thank Dr. Rodney Weinkoop, who we had an extensive email correspondence. He's the director of the Duke Chorale, and he helped me find a lot of these performers tonight, and he also informed the physical layout of the concert, so thank you. I'd like to thank my whole family, aunts, uncles, my Grammy from upstate PA, my Aunt Mo. They were all there for me throughout these long 2.5 years, but they also had a direct hand in helping make tonight's concert happen. So thank you, Will, Molly, Joe, my dad, and my mom, as well as my friends, some of who came from all up and down the eastern seaboard to be with me tonight. I'd like to thank especially my mom, who helped me plan this whole thing and figure out what I needed and what I didn't need. Also, thank you to everyone on the technical side of things, such as Selden Smith, the audio manager, Scott Wells, the video manager, Fred Westbrook, who made the webcast of this event available online. Then there's the Benenson Awards Committee, the URS Creative Arts Grant, and the Music Department, without whose financial support I could not have this performance tonight. And unfortunately, it would take longer than we have to name everyone who had a hand in this production. So really, to everyone left, I'd like to say thank you for your help. But I'd also like to say, finally, I'd like to thank the performers, the choir, the brass ensemble, the carillonneur, the percussion, and the conductor. Because what is a musical work if it's not performed? And then there's you, the audience. Because what is a musical work if no one hears it? And this is no token demonstration of gratitude, because all of these thanks get at the reason for why I wrote this Requiem. I've been asked that question so many times over the past few weeks. Why did I write this Requiem? And I was never really sure how to answer, because depending on how you look at it, there's either no reason, only one single reason, or there's an infinite number of reasons that actually turns the question on its head and asks, how could I not have read this Requiem? But the type of answer people are looking for is the following. The reason I wrote this Requiem gets at what I believe the very purpose of music to be, to bring people together in a way that isn't possible otherwise, to give voice to emotions and feelings that we have deep inside us, but which we simply can't describe accurately with words. In my research into the Voda musical culture, some of the very different assumptions that they make about music struck me very deeply. Their songs, such as those in the Requiem you just heard, have multiple functions. They're educative for young practitioners of Vodun, they're liturgical, and they're also comical and provide relief. But it all comes down to one thing. They sing these songs to make things happen. And I believe that is the power of music, to change our world in very real ways for the better, to make things happen. Because that's why I chose to write a Requiem instead of going down to Haiti myself and doing charity work, something that is, of course, a very honorable thing for a person to do. But I thought I could make a bigger difference if I sent a message for help in a sort of language that everybody can understand, music. Hopefully this work tonight moves you to make a difference. And please note that there are many more ways, and some more valuable, to make a difference than with money. Because as technology brings us all closer together and the global human community becomes reality, is now more than ever what we each do as individuals that makes more and more of a difference. So please, make a difference. Well, one anecdote illustrates this human interconnectedness very well. 4 years ago, on the eve of another graduation from St. Joe's Prep, I'm from Philadelphia, I was lucky enough to have my mom award me my diploma, so she was up on stage there. And I'll never forget, I was walking across the stage, and I hugged her and I kissed her and I got my diploma from her. And I said, I did it, Mom. And she said, you did it, Mark. I will never forget that. But now, 4 years later, with 4 more years of experience and maturity, I now can recognize that an individual never achieves anything without the help of his or her friends, family, colleagues, and teachers that surround them. So seriously, tonight, thank you to each and every one of you. And if you stick around after the concert, I'll be able to express my thanks in a more personal way. But really, to each and every one of you here tonight, I could not have done it without you. So tonight, instead of I did it, I say we did it. We did it. Thank you.